everybody, and welcome to another amazing video of DIY investing. Every single cycle, the very best performing assets are layer 1 cryptos that have never had a prior cycle. In the last bull market, I was early to 3 of the best performing layer 1s between Solana, Terra Luna, and Phantom networks. Every single one of these went up multi-hundreds of X's in gains, and I firmly believe that going into this cycle, we're gonna see layer 1s catch another strong bid and outperform the majority of assets in the market. Today, I want to break down my favorite layer 1 that I think can hit 100x gains over the course of the rest of this year. And I wanted to finish up this video by breaking down the whole ecosystem, why it's so primed for upside potential, and then I'm going to be sharing with you guys 2 of my favorite new tokens that I've actually bought on this chain that I think are going to be providing some insane gains very soon. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you did find any value in this video, please do me a favor, leave a like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. Without further ado, let's jump right into this amazing video today. Alrighty everybody, here we are jumping into today's video, and we are going to be taking a look at PulseChain. Once again, this is the chain that I think is going to massively outperform the majority of other ones out there, and the main reason is this. The issue with so many of the blockchains today in layer 1s is that they've already gone through so much venture capital. They've already raised tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions, and some of them even billions of dollars as they've gotten ready to launch. So by the time it hits the market, all of the real upside potential has pretty much been taken up by all of the VCs and the whales. So you don't really get any sort of real upside potential on the asset. It's already overvalued. It's already worth tens of billions of dollars in market cap. And there's already so much liquidity that it takes insane amounts of money to move the price 10%. So going into this cycle, what I was looking for wasn't the VC funded bullcrap. I was trying to ignore all of that stuff, and I was trying to find legitimately undervalued chains that are going to pump in a big way. Now, everybody knows Richard Hart. If you're following from the last cycle, you'll remember him going around buying all of this expensive stuff, bragging about his designer clothes and all of that stuff. And everybody was calling him a scammer. And everybody said that Hex was a scam, all of this stuff. And regardless of your opinions on all of that, Hex did 10,000x. It was the best performing asset over the last cycle. And when we're actually comparing it in market cap, it hit top 3 in market cap. So regardless of everybody's opinions, this is an ecosystem that is designed to pump because there's almost no circulating supply that exists for people to trade. It doesn't take that much liquidity to move the price substantial margins. And we have a founder that's actively trying to pump up the coins. There's a perfect scenario here that I think is going to create a lot of upside potential for those that actually listen. Now, if you're not going to listen, move off the video. You're not even part of this, and it doesn't matter what your opinion is. I've made a lot of money trading layer 1s every cycle, and I have a hunch that this one is going to do really well. So make sure you stay all the way to the end of this video because I'm going to be giving you guys 2 of my favorite picks that I've actually bought over the last couple weeks. And I really think that these are going to be some of the biggest winners very soon. So first off, we're going to start by taking a look at PulseChain. The whole reason why I'm so bullish on Pulse is because it reminds me of many of the prior cycles that I've traded. I've been in crypto for 9 years. Next year is going to be a full decade for me. And I've been able to make a significant amount of money over the process. One of the things that I've always done to make a lot of money is analyzing patterns. By following these fractals, it gives us an idea of what's going to happen in the broader market before the rest of the market picks up to it. Now, what I've noticed with XRP from its very first cycle is that it looks identical to the PulseChain cycle that we're seeing today. Now, we can see that between the listing pump, when it got added, when it fully retraced that move, when it made its first lower high, and then even when it went through all of this sideways consolidation, getting ready to the point of breaking out. Now, one of the things that was really interesting in this chart was right here, we started to make a breakout, we started to get above resistance, and then that led us to that final spring-loaded bounce before new all-time highs came. In my opinion, what we're seeing right now with Pulse is the same thing. This move right here is the same as this move right here. And we are just moments away from that spring-loaded bounce into new all-time highs. When XRP broke out, it went straight up to this range high, almost to its all-time high just shortly before. It pulled back, retested this lower high as new support, and then that was when it just went into price discovery. When we're looking at Pulse today, it's going to do the same thing. It's going to rocket all the way back up here to these range highs. It's going to pull back and it's going to cement itself on top of this lower high as new support. And that's where we're going to see the real upside of this new cycle for PulseChain. Now, this is just the native chain token of Pulse. If you follow PulseChain, you'll know that there's 4 core tokens that make the entirety of this ecosystem. Now, if we come over here, this is going to be the DEX of PulseChain. It's the exact same chart. There's no different. I don't need to get into some more expert analysis around this. What you see here, what you saw with XRP in 2014 to 2017, is the same thing that PulseX and Pulse is doing today. The only thing that is different is which one is actually going to outperform. And if we come over here and actually compare the two, I'm going to do PulseX against Pulse. And you guys are going to notice that up to this point, PulseX has massively outperformed PulseChain. However, just recently, we just broke down from this main trend line. We have been holding this trend line since the very beginning of 2024, and it's been outperforming Pulse along the whole way up. The only time that it shifted was literally right here when we started to break down. So what I believe happens for the rest of this cycle, PulseChain is going to outperform the DEX token, which is PulseX. Even though both charts look exactly the same, I have confidence that the better buy right now, the one that's going to make you the most money, is to actually accumulate the native token itself. This thing has barely $300 million in market cap. It's significantly undervalued versus many of the other layer 1s in the market. And honestly, with a $300 million market cap, 100x is only $30 billion. And when we're talking about how much these assets are going to be worth over the rest of this year, with all of the retail adoption that's coming, with the institutional adoption we've already seen, I have a lot of confidence that PulseChain is a 100x token for the rest of this year. Now, with that being said, is PulseX going to give us 50x, 80x? I don't know. But what we can say for sure is PulseX is breaking down on the trend against PulseChain, and that tells me that you're much better off simply just holding PulseChain over PulseX. Now, next we have Hex, right? Hex is the main token. Everybody knows Hex from the last cycle. Hex pumped 10,000x, and then PulseChain went live, and Richard Hart forked the entire Ethereum chain. He copied it. So everybody that had Hex on Ethereum from the last cycle got Hex on PulseChain as the new token, and this is the airdropped version. I'm not going to talk about the Ethereum version because I don't think that that has any value. I think the only real long-term value is PHEX, and this one is honestly one of the biggest leaders. Every time you see the market pump, usually this one's up about double the rest of the tokens. Now, what we've noticed up to this point is all this entire corrective phase was pretty much one big ABC, right? A, B, and C back down. And shortly after that C wave happened, we saw our first impulse. Wave 1, Wave 3, Wave 4, and Wave 5. So what we've noticed over the last year about is all we've done is completed our first impulse and correction. So what's coming next is a Wave 3. Wave 3s are going to be the most parabolic, the most impulsive, the most new volume comes into them. And honestly, the most money is usually generated in those as well. Now keep in mind that this is going to be creating a very, very big pump. And when I look at this from a long-term basis, I honestly don't think that we can look at fib targets as being the end-all, do-all for where we're going to take profits. When these things start to run, what happens is a supply shock. With Hex, 90% of the supply is controlled by Richard Hart, which is why people called it a scam in the first place, but 90% of the supply is also controlled by Richard Hart with PulseX, Pulse, and all of the other tokens. The difference is he has never sold a token, and he does this specifically to keep supply out of the market. If there's a large amount of supply in the liquidity pools, it's really hard to move the price in a % return manner, right? If you're trying to get something to 10x, it's much easier to do that if there's 90% less tokens available for everybody to trade. If you've got a giant liquidity pool full of millions and millions of tokens, and you're expecting the price to go up 100x, there's just going to be too much sell pressure. And Richard Hart knows this. It's the whole reason why Hex did a 10,000x in the last cycle. He understands the tokenomics, and the great thing about liquidity on PulseX is every time one side of the liquidity pool doubles, so keep in mind that this is the PulseChain chart, right? This is Pulse against USD coin. So if somebody comes in and puts, let's say there's $1 million worth of Pulse on this side, and then there's $1 million worth of US dollar coin. If somebody comes in and dumps $1 million into the dollar coin side, and it doubles the ratio of the Pulse side, the Pulse token will 4x in price, because the way that liquidity giving works on PulseX, it's just simply math. And it moves in a square. So if one side of the liquidity pool doubles in value versus the other, whichever one is undervalued is going to 4x in price to ultimately make back that same ratio in the liquidity pool. If that doesn't make sense, ultimately it's not going to make more sense if I sit here and explain it further. The reason that I'm explaining this now is because PulseChain, PulseX, Hex, they're all liquidity bonded together. So if one goes up, they all go up together. And like I said, if Hex goes up, let's say, it 10x's in value, None of these tokens even need to get one single buy order into them, and because so much of their liquidity pool is bonded with Hex, and because that one token did a 10x in value, it's ultimately just going to make every one of these other tokens backed to it go up in a same sort of manner, right? So there's so much value to be made off of this chain because of the way that the math works on PulseX with liquidity giving and the bonding. And then also when we're talking about Richard Hart pretty much having 90% of the supply locked away that's never going to hit the market, it doesn't take hardly any amount of money to boost the prices of these up substantially. So you can go and invest into the brand new layer one, the SUIs, the Cs, the ones that are already worth billions of dollars in market cap, and you can go and buy those, and you're going to get dumped on by the venture capitalists that got in the pre-sale. You are going to be the exit liquidity the entire way up. PulseChain is the only layer one that isn't going to be selling on you. The only people taking profits are the people that bought the token themselves. The founder isn't going to do that. The reason he sucked so much of the supply off chain is because he wants to pump the price for everybody else. It doesn't take hardly any money to come into these markets, and you're going to see them balloon extraordinarily high in price. That's why I really think that what we see here with PulseChain is a unique opportunity. I've been early to so many of them in crypto, a decade in. You can trust me or you can think I'm a scammer, but I'm telling you guys right now, I've got a lot of conviction in this, and that's why I put so much money into these things. Now, next is Ink. This is the last token that is bonded with all of the other Richard Hart coins. When we're talking about where these can go, I wouldn't be surprised if across the board we see 50 to 100x. I think PulseChain can 100x. This is what I think is coming for PulseChain. If PulseChain does this, it's liquidity bonded with PulseX. PulseX is going to do this. If PulseX and Pulse do this, they're liquidity bonded with Hex. Hex is going to do the same thing as well. There is no fib target that's going to give you guys an accurate representation of how high these can pump. It's all supply and demand. And when there is almost no supply available for everybody to buy, yet there's an influx of demand, it's just basic math. And I can't be more stern, I can't be more serious when I say this. There is a huge opportunity here for you to make life-changing wealth, and if you don't buy it, you're going to miss out on it. I'm not trying to feed you some pipe dream. I'm not trying to sell you on some scam. I really do think that this is going to make us all a lot of money. And the one that I think could actually outperform all of the other three tokens I just shared, we have Pulse, we have PulseX, we have Hex. The one that I think can actually outperform all of those is Ink. And I've always kind of said that. And the reason why is because it's got the smallest supply, the smallest market cap, and I believe that when all of those other three start pumping, this one has the most room to catch up. And it also has a prior all-time high that we can look at. If it only goes to the prior all-time high of the last cycle, you're making 50x returns. That's just the prior all-time high. I've got confidence that this thing is going to go up into a new all-time high, and for 100x, it's got to go to about 164 bucks. That's what you're going to have to be looking for 100x. And to be quite honest, guys, I'm not going to be the least bit surprised if this thing rockets and just makes this last prior all-time high look like nothing, a little blip on the long-term chart, right? And this thing is going to fly in a big way. I mean, realistically, guys, it's basic math. If I think that PulseChain, the native token, is going to 100x in value, it's going to go from 300 mil to $30 billion in market cap, then the smallest token that's bonded to every single one of those is probably going to go up at least 200x, I would imagine. So Ink is one of mine that's kind of a dark horse. As we begin the cycle, we're going to see Hex start to outperform. That's usually how it works. But then when the things really start to get picking up in value and we start to see them run to their all-time highs, that's when this one is going to start picking up the most. So in my opinion, the dark horse candidate for the core tokens on PulseChain is Ink. But if we're going to be picking one or the other, I really like Pulse because it's the native layer 1 token. You can never go wrong with the native layer 1 token. They always outperform. And, you know, ultimately I would actually choose to get Pulse over PulseX because it's going to outperform PulseX. Hex is a good option. I think that that's another one. But if you only have so much money to go around, I'm personally going Ink and I'm personally going PulseChain. And I'm ignoring the rest. Now, we're going to jump into two of my favorite tokens that I've actually started to accumulate on this chain. They're not the core tokens of Richard Hart. They're just built on PulseChain, and I think that these are going to be flying very soon. So first up on today's video is going to be Solidex. This is a really awesome project that doesn't have hardly any supply. It's a low supply token. Most of the supply is also locked up. That's not going to be hitting the open market. So you're going to notice kind of a pattern with some of these PulseChain tokens. A lot of the time, there's a very small amount of supply that exists for people to trade in the liquidity pools, and what we end up seeing is the prices skyrocket very quickly once just a small amount of liquidity comes in. Once a little bit of people start buying, it doesn't take very much. 100K is enough to move the price of this thing up substantially in value. Now, Solidex is one of my favorites because they're actually one of the few teams that's actively building on PulseChain. They're looking to actually add and grow to the Solidex token, and I'm not going to announce any of the specifics because I think that that's a little hush-hush for now, but with what I know, talking to the founder, with what they're building, this has a very real potential of being the best performing asset on the entirety of the PulseChain network. And so, guys, once again, if we're looking at PulseChain doing 100x, these tokens that are bonded with it that have small market cap, they're going to end up doing bigger gains, and that's just the way it goes. But I only go after the projects that I think are serious ones, the ones that have active founders, active development, and the founder currently is spending $150,000 per month just in development with what they're actually creating. In my opinion, you can't really go wrong with Solidex. Now, from a technical perspective, this thing has massive bullish divergence. Ever since we pretty much came all the way down, man, it was all the way in June of 2024, this thing has been making lower lows and lower highs for the most part, but the RSI has done nothing but uptrended, and we're currently bouncing off of that same trend line again. In my opinion, this amount of bullish divergence is sure to signal a quick breakout once this thing starts moving. And I think the primary target that it's going to hit on the first big swing is most likely going to be up here. Pretty much from where that resistance, where we're at right now to that resistance, you're looking at about a 10x move, just in the first swing. Like I stated, guys, I think that this is what's going to happen for PulseChain. It's going to go in one big move all the way up to these range highs, just like XRP did over in here. And if that's the case, you're going to see Solidex do the same thing. It's going to run, it's going to make a big breakout. It'll probably do this. Wouldn't be surprised if it kind of pulled back here, but it's going to set itself up for a much bigger impulse. And guys, here's the thing. If it only goes back up to its prior all-time high, you're looking at about a 30x gain that it's going to be hitting. A 30x gain in a crypto is really, really great returns if it's just to the all-time high. That's not counting what happens when it finally goes into price discovery. I'm that bullish on these tokens that we have a rare opportunity that we've had this big decline in price. Everybody's forgotten about them. Everybody's overlooking them. But this is a solid team that's actively building. It's got more liquidity bonded with some of these tokens I just shared you than almost anything else on PulseChain. So once again, nobody even has to buy this coin. Not one single person. But if PulseChain does this, and if PulseX does this, and Hex starts doing this, and Ink starts running to its all-time high, because of all of the bonding that exists, because of how much Solidex is paired with Hex, PulseX, PulseChain, and Incentive Token, this thing is going to go up more in a percent return. And that's what I really am confident about when buying some of these new tokens. This thing is going to go into a new all-time high. They're currently worth $9.36. I think that there's a very real potential. These are going to be worth $400 and $500 per coin, if not even more than that. You know, I'm not going to get too crazy with my expectations, but if PulseChain, and I'm confident it can do 100x, I really think that this one can actually do more than that and outperform it maybe 200, maybe 300x. That seems crazy, I know, but I'm telling you guys, when you're early to a new ecosystem, a layer 1, buying the DEX token, buying a liquidity layer, buying an NFT platform, whatever it is, buying into some of these infrastructure plays, they always end up outperforming the native token itself, if you're into the right one. Solidex is one of my top picks, and I really think that this is one you should have on your radar. Now, last up on today's video is going to be PTGC. This is called the Graze currency, and this one is basically the best fundamental project based off of the bonding of liquidity. These guys are reflection tokens, so there's a tax on every transaction that happens, and the tax actually goes back to the holders. So there's a tax on every transaction, that goes into a pool, that pool diversifies to the holders, so you can actively accumulate more Graze currency just by holding the token. It gets airdropped straight to your wallet. So this is one that has a ton of liquidity bonded with all of the biggest projects on the chain. And it's got a very small amount of market cap, only about $130 million. So when this thing starts to pick up, it's going to outperform massively. Up to this point, it's been the best performing asset on PulseChain. We can see that ever since it launched, it's done nothing but just consistently go up, consistently make higher highs and higher lows. And even throughout this correction, it's bottomed, and it's even made another secondary impulse. Now, this chart right here shows divergences, both bullish divergence, bearish divergence, and hidden bullish divergence and bearish divergence. What we notice here is that the RSI made a lower low, yet the price has actually made a higher low. And if you notice right here, that's called hidden bullish divergence. When the price makes a higher high or the higher low, yet the indicator makes a lower low, it shows that there's actually a lot of buy support. This is a hidden bullish signal because most people miss it. And what we just saw as we just began this impulse, we saw 5 waves to the upside, big extended wave 5, and that's why it corrected all the way back down to support, was because wave 5 was overextended. We came back down into support of wave 4. Very much the same sort of thing you're going to see across the board on Elliott waves. That's what you want to see. Support comes back into wave 4, we bottom, and now we're just starting to get that bid off of support. And I do think that this thing is going to pretty much run up here, and it's going to really quickly start to run into a new all-time high, because this is just a wave 1 impulse, and it's a subwave. The next one coming is wave 3, and wave 3 is coming after this great big move already happened. With the amount of liquidity this is bonded with, all of these tokens I've just shared with you to start this video, the amount of upside potential in this is massive. I honestly think that out of all of these tokens, PTGC and Solidex have the biggest upside potential for how we're going to see the entire market outperform. You know, PulseChain is going to do its thing, Hex is going to do its thing, PulseX is going to do its thing. The core tokens are all going to do their thing. But because all of these tokens are building on the chain, they're bonded with all that liquidity, they don't have to have any buyers, and they're already going to outperform the price. Because what the Firewall is building over on this project with Solidex, I'm telling you guys, it's a really revolutionary idea. I can't spill the beans yet, but I promise that we will very soon. So if you guys do want to check these out, I'm going to link them in the description for you guys to go ahead and buy. If you don't know how to buy on PulseChain, later this week I'm going to be making a video going through all of the details, how to bridge, how to buy, you know, how to add the network into your MetaMask, doing everything that you guys are going to need to see in order to go ahead and actually start accumulating on this chain. Because I know a lot of you guys have had some issues, you don't know where to start. It's a little confusing, and I understand that. It is a little bit more confusing than some of the other chains. But that's where the upside potential is. Because it's so hard for people to figure out, most people are not even over here yet. And they will show up when they start to see the prices of these things blow up. So, like I said, guys, I've been early to the best layer ones every cycle. Even going back into 2016 and 2017, I was early to those layer ones. Every cycle, they're my favorite plays, and I got a lot of confidence that this ecosystem is primed to blow up. So if you guys do find value in this video, please do me a favor. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these updates. If you guys want to see what I'm buying, selling, trading over these cycles, any altcoin picks, most importantly, where I end up selling and taking profits on these things, links are in the description. Go ahead and sign up for my private group on my website. With that being said, I love you guys. Looking forward to what's happening with PulseChain. Get over here, get bridged, get some exposure, because as much confidence I have, you know, take it with a grain of salt, but I have a lot of confidence with these moving forward. So I'd love to see you guys make some profit with me. With that being said, I'll catch you guys in the next one. As always, peace out.